Okay, let's dive in. We're unpacking really one of the biggest psychological shifts anyone can make, right?
Hmm.
That journey from thinking, I can't, all the way to I will.
Hmm.
And our goal here, our mission in this deep dive, isn't just, finding inspiration. It's really about pulling out the blueprints from our source material.
The actual steps.
Exactly, the practical steps.
Yeah.
How does that mental switch actually flip? We want the mechanics.
Yeah.
What if unlocking all that potential isn't some big secret or, just luck?
Right.
What if it's actually a technique you can learn, a way to sort of strategically shift how you handle doubt?
Well, and what's really striking is just how common this whole problem is. The source material talks about self-doubt not as like a passing mood.
Yeah, not just a bad day.
Not at all. It's framed as a silent struggle within. And for so many people, it's not just a fleeting thought. It becomes this constant companion.
Holding them back.
Subtly, yeah. It influences huge life choices, careers, relationships, taking any kind of risk. It effectively keeps people from, well, really engaging fully with life.
And you instantly see it, don't you? The examples in the notes are so visual. Picture yourself staring at that blank screen, knowing you have to kick off some huge project.
Mm-hmm.
Or, okay, walking up to give a big presentation. Or even just entering, like, a really intense social setting.
Mm-hmm.
And then you feel it start, right? That little tremor, that physical feeling of anxiety, of doubt, trying to keep you right where you are, stuck.
It's your brain trying to protect you, essentially. That's its default.
But it gets a bit overzealous sometimes.
Way overzealous. And this deep dive today is really about how you consciously override that default setting.
Okay, so if the doubt is kind of automatic, the belief part, that has to be a choice, a conscious one.
Right.
So what's the spark? What kicks off that internal shift?
Yeah.
How do you get from, I absolutely can't, to even just, well, maybe I can't?
That's the critical question.
So let's start with the first story from the sources. Maya, an artist, and she almost completely gave up her dream, didn't she?
Yeah, she was really trapped by that self-critique, that voice so many creative people struggle with.
The inner critic.
Exactly. Her canvases just stayed unfinished because that critical voice was just, well, louder than her actual desire to create anything.
That's such a common trap. So Maya's story, it really highlights that initial barrier, doesn't it? The fear of judgment, which just leads to stopping altogether. Avoidance.
Right. And we tend to look for these big, heroic moments of change,
Yeah.
a lightning bolt moment.
Yeah, some grand epiphany.
But the sources really stress that her turning point was actually incredibly small. Almost mundane, really. It wasn't this grand gesture like suddenly declaring she was brilliant.
Okay, so what was it then? What was the actual mechanism?
It was a single, quiet decision about structure. The sources call it a 30-minute exposure rule.
30 minutes, okay?
Yeah. Maya didn't set out to create a masterpiece each day. That wasn't the goal. She just committed to sitting in front of her canvas for exactly 30 minutes every morning. No judgment allowed during that time.
Just show up for 30 minutes.
Exactly. And if she hated what she did after those 30 minutes, fine, she could stop. The key thing was separating the act of creating from the judgment of the quality.
Okay.
She was basically saying, okay, I'm going to trust the process itself, not my immediate reaction or my self-criticism.
That separation, process versus outcome, that feels really crucial. But, how did she know she was trusting her gut, like the sources say, her intuition, and not just, finding a different way to avoid the real work?
That's a really sharp question because it's tricky, right? Differentiating between, say, fear-driven procrastination and genuine creative insight.
Yeah.
And the sources clarify this. Her breakthrough wasn't about suddenly not feeling doubt. She still felt it. It was about deciding to move forward despite the doubt.
Okay.
That 30-minute rule, it created data, tangible results. She could see, okay, even when I feel anxious, if I just show up for the short windows, something happens, progress is made. Even tiny progress.
So the data proved the gut feeling right.
Exactly. Her gut got validated not by feeling amazing, but by seeing consistent, measurable movement, however small. And that initial step, that defiant belief expressed just by showing up consistently, no matter the internal weather, that seems to be the real spark.
That consistency, even in tiny bursts.
Yeah.
It really does seem like the difference maker between staying stuck and actually moving forward. It shows that belief doesn't need to be like this loud declaration. It just needs to be consistent.
Action over feeling initially.
So Maya's story really shows the power of that quiet internal consistency. But the journey to self-belief, it's not just one path, is it? The notes call it a tapestry of human resilience.
Right. There are different ways in.
So let's look at a different approach, more about external actions building up.
Yeah.
This brings us to David. The sources describe him as a former corporate drone.
Yeah.
He'd spent years kind of boxed in by the limitations he felt were imposed by his job, his colleagues. But eventually he found a totally new direction, a new voice, a purpose.
And if we connect David's journey, which is much more about external action, back to Maya's very internal struggle,
Okay.
we see how self-belief can be built not just through wrestling with your thoughts, but through steady, visible effort and results. David's change wasn't sudden either. No single epiphany.
Slower, more methodical.
Much slower, yeah. And deliberately structured. His sense of self-worth didn't just appear. It emerged through what the sources call a series of small wins, each building on the last.
Small wins. So was he deliberately looking for little challenges, things he felt pretty sure he could actually handle?
Precisely.
Yeah.
The psychology behind this is all about mastery experiences. It's a core concept in building self-efficacy, which is basically belief in your ability to succeed at specific tasks.
Right.
So David started setting these tiny goals, really low stakes, but things he could measure, like, okay, figure out this tricky Excel function, lead one short team meeting, learn one specific new technical skill.
Things he could definitively say, I did that.
Exactly. And by successfully completing these small tasks one after another, he started gathering actual evidence, empirical proof that directly contradicted his long-held belief that he just wasn't capable of changing or growing.
So it sounds like he wasn't so much trying to change his mind directly. He was trying to change his data. He needed proof.
That's a great way to put it. He literally replaced the internal story of I'm not good enough or I'm not competent with hard data points like, wait, I successfully did task X 5 times this week.
Okay.
And this step-by-step approach, building on small victories, is so important for anyone who feels totally overwhelmed by the idea of making some massive, terrifying leap. You earn your confidence one success at a time.
I do wonder, though, did the sources talk about the risk of maybe becoming reliant on those wins, like a confidence addiction where you constantly need that external validation instead of building genuine internal self-worth?
That's a really important nuance, and yes, it's definitely addressed. The reports suggest that initially, yes, the validation was mostly external. You know, a compliment from the boss, a project finished on time.
Standard workplace stuff.
Right. But as the number of successful actions piled up, something crucial shifted internally. David started internalizing that feedback loop.
Oh, so?
He began attributing his successes more to his own effort, his own strategy, rather than just luck or easy tasks or external factors.
The attribution changed.
Exactly. That shift from needing external pats on the back to recognizing his own agency and competence, internal attribution, that's what really cemented his self-belief. It became self-sustaining because, well, the evidence he'd built was undeniable.
That's a powerful transition. Okay, so if David mastered building belief through external actions and tracking the data, let's pivot now to maybe the most common block for listeners, that internal feeling, the physiological panic.
The racing heart, the sweaty palms, yeah.
Right, which brings us to the third narrative. Sarah. She had really bad public speaking anxiety, crippling by the sounds of it, but somehow she transformed that intense feeling. The sources even say her anxiety eventually became a superpower. Now that sounds pretty dramatic. How on earth does paralyzing fear become an asset?
This really gets to the core of our agency over our own physical responses. Sarah's big insight, and it's backed by the psychological research mentioned in our notes, is that the physical state of intense fear and the physical state of intense excitement are actually almost identical physiologically.
Really? Heart racing, adrenaline.
Both involve that adrenaline surge, the racing heart, that feeling of being hyper alert. Your body is doing basically the same thing in both scenarios.
Okay, so the body's reaction is similar, but the brain is putting a different label on it. Fear versus excitement.
Precisely. And Sarah's breakthrough wasn't about trying to stop the physical symptoms. You can't just tell your body, hey, stop producing adrenaline, right?
No, doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Instead, she used this really crucial psychological tool called cognitive reappraisal. She consciously, deliberately chose to relabel those physical signals.
Relabel them.
So instead of thinking, okay, my heart is pounding, I'm terrified, this is going to be a disaster, she trained herself to think, my heart is pounding, this means I'm energized, I'm ready, let's go.
Wow. So the exact same physical sensation, the racing heart, becomes a signal of readiness, not a signal of danger. That takes some serious mental discipline. How long did that take? Did she just decide one day?
No, the sources emphasize it was very much an intentional practice, like building any other skill or a muscle. She started by doing the reappraisal internally before the anxiety usually spiked, kind of preloading the interpretation.
Okay, getting ahead of it.
Yeah, pre-labeling those physical feelings she knew were coming. She practiced seeing, say, trembling hands not as weakness, but as stored energy ready to be used.
Focused energy.
Exactly. And this allowed her to actually harness the focus that often comes with anxiety. She turned what felt like a threat into the focused energy needed for a high-stakes situation like public speaking.
That's fascinating.
So when you look at all three stories together, you've got Maya using that quiet internal defiance and consistency.
Right, the 30-minute rule.
Then David, building belief through accumulating external proof, those mastery experiences.
Well wins.
And Sarah, mastering her internal state through cognitive reframing.
Relabeling the panic.
The core lesson that comes through is really the same, fundamentally. It's the ability to first just recognize the doubt, acknowledge it's there.
Don't ignore it.
Don't ignore it, don't fight it necessarily, but acknowledge it. And then crucially, consciously choose belief, choose agency over how you respond to it.
So you accept the feeling. You accept
Right.
the doubt might be there, but you decide what you do next, and you decide what meaning you give to those internal signals. These stories show self-belief isn't just something you have or don't have.
Not if, no.
It's something you build strategically, like an architect.
Mm-hmm. An internal architecture.
So bringing this all together, what does this actually mean for you listening right now? The sources really hammer this home. These aren't just nice, inspiring stories to make you feel good for a few minutes.
No, they're practical.
They're operational blueprints, blueprints for your own journey, moving from hesitation towards confidence. And they show three quite distinct paths you could explore, depending on maybe where your main sticking point is.
Right. Is it getting started internally, like Maya? Is it building competence externally, like David? Or is it managing that overwhelming physical panic, like Sarah?
Exactly.
And connecting this to the bigger picture, it's so important to remember what the sources say. Self-belief isn't some final destination you reach and then you're just done.
Yeah.
You've arrived.
It's not like flipping a switch permanently.
Not at all. It's described as a continuous process of nurturing your inner strength. It takes ongoing work, ongoing awareness. And sometimes you might need to switch strategies, maybe lean on Maya's consistency one week, David's action focus the next, or Sarah's reframing when things feel intense.
Absolutely. And the sources end with this really powerful nudge, basically saying, okay, stop just thinking about it, stop analyzing forever, start doing something today.
Take one step.
Yeah, we've laid out these three blueprints, right? We saw Maya's single, quiet decision, just show up. We saw David's structured approach, stack those small wins. And we learned Sarah's technique, relabel panic as power.
3 clear models.
So maybe think about which of those three feels the most challenging for you right now, or maybe the most unfamiliar in your current routine. Where's your weakest link, perhaps? And the challenge is, what small initial step, just one tiny action that pushes back against that familiar doubt, that tremor, what could you actually take today to start building towards your own potential?
Just ponder that for a moment. The potential power of taking that very first, maybe quiet, but definitely strategic step. A step towards writing a new story for yourself.